all my life. Been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice, that's why. All my life, I've been grinding all my life. All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice, that's why. All my life, I've been grinding all my life. Look, I'm married to this game. That's why.
Maybe we're gonna make an accident, but hopefully it's gonna be a dope interview. So yeah, so thanks for joining us for the magazine, and thanks for having this quick interview in the car. We're seeing many videos of you that sometimes you repost where you're a kid, like you must be maybe 12 years old,
Yeah.
and you're like introducing yourself and starting breaking, but you already have that stance, that b-boy stance, you know, that b-boy attitude that in France it's difficult to find, mostly at the young dancers, because it's difficult to understand here in France how to have that stance. So I just wanted to have information about your youth and ask you what was your reality as a kid, and how is it that you had already this understanding that young, you know?
Yeah. So, you know, to elaborate on what you said about, you know, in Paris and in all around the world, a lot of kids now, they see breaking on YouTube first. Maybe they'll see a big competition. Yeah. Maybe they see something like this. When I started, there was no YouTube, there was no Instagram, none of this. You know, when I first saw breaking, I saw breaking at its purest form. You know, with my eyes, live. You know, and as I, you know, approached the dance, you know, the guys that taught me, luckily, were already invested into the original style of breaking. There wasn't really no other style. You know what I mean? It was like breaking was still in its truest form in the 90s, right? So there wasn't no really misconception of it. I mean, there was actually, but the guys that taught me, they were already hip to like the real deal. You know, who was the real, who was the fake, who was, you know, what was real and what was not. So immediately the guys I was around, you know, they schooled me on what is the essence and how to break correctly, and, you know, what was fresh and what was whack. So, you know, so I had a pretty good interpretation.
Because basically what you're saying is that, because you started in the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
You're saying that at that time it was only one interpretation of what was hip hop and breaking.
I mean,
like,
there always was some bullshit, but, you know, like not like now. You know, like now it's just like overload of just, you know, the same moves over and over, and people don't really even get into hip hop. Like, you could get into breaking now and not even know anything about hip hop and the culture and like the elements and where it came from, and, you know, who passed it down, and, you know, the ancestry of it. They don't know this. You know, they just see breaking and it's like parkour to them, so it's like something like you know, they want to do. But yeah, I think back then it was more in its organic form because of there was no social media, there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
And you had to ask. You had to get knowledge, you had to seek and figure it out and be like, wait, where does this come from? Like, you know, and ask questions instead of just, you know, watching an overflow of moves and air flares and, you know, power moves and flips, the showy stuff, right?
The guys around you, they were taller than you, right? The one that taught you. So they were bringing you to some events, to some stuff, and you were just like living this experience as a kid. So you lived hip hop as a kid. You learned it as a kid, and isn't it what it's about? Just acting as a kid, isn't it? That's why we're called B-boys and B-girls and not B-men and B-women. Because isn't it about not getting older, just staying a kid in its head and stuff like this?
Like you said, it's a mentality of, you know, staying young mentally, because who wants to get old, right? Like, who really wants to get old? Who wants to, change what they love? Like, this is what we love, right? We love to break. We love to listen to music. We love to, watch people make music. We love to watch people dance. We love to see graffiti. We love to see DJing. You know what I mean? And the art of it, of beat making and producing music. Like all this, we love it. So for us, it's definitely like a fountain of youth, right?
True.
Of vibration that we on. Like I feel like b-boys and hip-hoppers in general are definitely, when you grow up with it and you keep it close to your heart, it's definitely like a fountain of youth, I feel like. Because a lot of people, they're programmed to get old. They're programmed to like, oh, well, you can't do what you did when you were a kid. You got to get old. Like, who said we can do whatever we want, and make our life easy. A lot of people around 18 years old, they start to work regular jobs all the way to they're like 65. So most of their life, they're doing something they don't love. Most of my life, I've been doing what I love. That's why I look how I look. You mean, like, I'm not aging. I'm not, like, stressed out. I'm literally cruising through this lifetime on some ill shit. You know what I mean? Like, just like on some jiggy fucking hip shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hip to game. You know what I mean? I'm not hopping around on this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, hip means you're hip to what's going on. You're conscious, right? See, the fifth element of hip hop that people don't really talk about, every time I hear people talking about the elements of hip hop, I only hear them say 4. The fifth one is knowledge of self, and knowing yourself and having your third eye open, being conscious of what's real, because all this other bullshit that we, are taught, you have to go to school, you have to do this, you have to pay, you know what I mean? Like, all these rules, it's like, bro.
So
it's bullshit. It's like, dude, that's why I feel like when you find hip hop, it's bigger than just the dancing and us breaking and flipping around. It's like
knowing yourself.
Yeah, bro. It's about knowing yourself. They're not, figuring yourself out, figuring out this life.
Accept.
You know what I mean? Spiritually and mentally, physically, in this dimension and other dimensions. You know what I mean? So it gets deep. It gets really deep.
It was just to know a little bit more about your history and how you kind of lived the American dream your way, like from breaking in some skate parks to Hollywood and stuff like this,
Well, so I grew up in Miami, and my parents, they originally from Israel. They moved to New York. They were dancers as well, but they were like, they weren't your average Israeli, so to speak. They were very like out there hippie style. They wanted to get out of there. Basically, they didn't want to stay in Israel, so they moved to New York, and they were dancers, and they became Buddhist. They didn't really like. I didn't grow up with like being like any Jewish religion in my home. Nothing, no Torah, no bar mitzvah, nothing. My parents moved to Miami to like the most ghettoest neighborhood in Miami. Like poor neighborhood, because they didn't have nothing. They didn't have no help. They came here alone themselves. They, our family doesn't have much money in our family. Because if you date back, like my family, I lost like 40 members in my family in the Holocaust. So we basically fled from Europe into Israel, and my parents left Israel because it's always like war and there and all this shit going on, and they didn't want to be there, so they left. They went to New York. They had me in Miami, and like I grew up in the hood, but I didn't know it was the hood really. It was just good for me. Like I was chilling. Later on, I realized like, damn, You know, like I started to realize as I grew up, like, yo, this is the hood. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, growing up in the hood, you always hip to shit in the streets. You know what I mean? Like, it's street life, bro. It's like I've been around that type of shit and those type of people, my neighbors, people I grew up around, you know. People are always into, like, you know, fashion, rapping, music, you know, gangster life, gangs, you know, that shit. That street life in America is different. So you get to see a lot growing up. You know, you see people getting shot, you see people getting beat up. You know, you see people robbing and stealing and making money and, you know, buying golds, and you see all this shit and as a child growing up, you know. So you see all this is different. You know, you're different. But I knew at some point I had to get out of Miami because I was getting into the street life, and I was like, it's either this or break it. And I'm like, I know if I keep doing this shit, I'm gonna end up in jail. You know, like I wasn't a stupid kid. You know what I mean? Like I was smart. So I was like, yo, fuck this, I'm out. I'm gonna drop out of school. I went to New York, and I started street performing with the guys out there as a young kid. Learned how to like really do street shows in New York City with like Float Committee and Clown from the Bronx, Julio Santiago, Breeze Team, you know, Universal, and all these guys. You know, just being in New York City,
Blitz.
really like took my breaking to another level as well, because I was dancing every day on the concrete in New York City. You know, so it's like it don't get no more hip hop than that. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. And you know, and I got with Rocksteady crew, and that was another dream for me because I grew up as a kid watching Rocksteady battle in B Street, you know, on the VHS tape. So for me to be able to get down with that crew and rock with the guys that I saw as a child, you know, on the TV, was another dream come true. And I knew I was on the right path, you know, like these little things that was happening to me with breaking. I knew, like, I knew I was like, okay, all I know is breaking. And all I know, if I don't do breaking, all I know is street life. So it's like, I had to trust breaking. You know, like it's gonna take me somewhere. It's not gonna get me to be rich, but it's gonna get me enough where I don't have to, you know, be in jail or dead. You know what I mean? And that's what it was, bro. Because unfortunately, I grew up in a neighborhood where, you know, my parents were amazing parents. They loved me, but they were working all the time, and I was a kid, like always in the streets, you know, in the neighborhood. So, you know, in the streets, there's ways to come up, but you know, it's very, you know, dangerous, you know. And yeah, I went to New York, learned how to street perform, did all that. Got rock steady, kept breaking, and I was like, yo, I want to move to Hollywood, I want to move to LA, I want to become an actor, you know, I want to make it, I want to like do something in my life, you know. So it was always that drive of seeing all these people fail in my neighborhood, fail into the streets, that really motivated me to go the opposite way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To go like, man, I gotta make it doing what I love, you know what I'm saying? Which is breaking. And doing it in a positive way, and do it in a legal way, you know what I mean? So I don't have to watch my back, I don't have to worry about shit, you know? So it's like, I always knew as a kid, man. I was like, as soon as I saw breaking, bro, I was like, yo, this is it. This is my spaceship. This is gonna take me anywhere I wanna go. And I knew it in the 90s, you know? And now we're here 30 years later. We're in Paris, France, doing this dope ass interview. You know what I mean? And shit is history, bro. Like, Red Bull didn't get me on that stage until I was 39 years old. 19 years they did the competition. They never got Flea Rock on there. And as soon as they did, we made history. You know what I mean? Like we showed them like, yo, there's more to this shit than what you're putting on the stage, guys. You know, like, nothing to knock, you know, anybody else, because I've watched everybody that hit that stage come up. I've watched them from beginning to how they, you know, got to that point. And, you know, I always was like wondering, damn, like why can't I be on that stage if you got guys that I inspired on that stage? You know what I mean? It never made sense to me. So, you know, finally, you know, but it was also me too, you know, I was doing Hollywood shit. You know, I could have got on the stage probably if I would have pushed a little harder, you know, did some more, you know, regionals and whatnot. But, you know, I kind of fell into the whole Hollywood thing for a minute. Doing jobs, you know, touring around the world with artists. Tour
Yeah,
Rihanna.
because you did many artists.
Tour Rihanna, tour
Crazy
Mariah
career.
Carey, Gwen Stefani,
And
Chris Brown.
you got 30 years of breaking, and now more than ever you kind of represent the truth, I mean the realness, the original American b-boy. How do you keep it that real in 30 years? Because being an artist is having his vision, like your vision must have been changing so many times over breaking and hip-hop and all of this. How do you keep being an artist and being clear with your vision of what it is and keeping it that real for so many years?
I'm not being real. I'm just being me. It's all I know. It's not like I'm choosing to be this way. You understand?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm like, oh, that's what I'm saying. When you born into this shit, this is all you know. This is what it is. I am this. You mean like this is, I'm a b-boy, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. So there's no like changing that, you know? And for me, like I said, if I didn't break, I don't know what I would do. Because I'm not gonna get a regular job. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna be that person. I'd rather be homeless. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck that. I'm not gonna do that. I'd rather, you know what I mean? Like, for me, it's like, bro, breaking is my art. You know what I mean? It's like, it's my mission. You know? And I'm very firm with this belief. Nothing has swayed that. Not money, not a job in Hollywood, nothing. None of that. Because I know how rich I am with just loving the art. You know what I mean? That's my money. That's my richness. That's my gold. My moves. Me being able to dance.
That's it.
And create is my money, bro. It's my gold. It's my richness. You know what I'm saying? So it's like nothing can buy that. Nothing can change that. It's so precious to me. You feel me? That's why now I'm injured. I'm depressed. I'm angry inside, but I'm still trying to have a good time and be positive through it. Because when your dance is taken away from you like that, it's the worst feeling. You know what I mean? Especially when you love it. You know, when you love it and it's everything for you, it's like, fuck, now what? Like I said, you know, breaking it's a lifestyle where you know, like my job is to go do street shows. That's how I make my money. And thank God I do the microphone. You know, like I'm the one that talks on the mic. I do all the jokes. I bring the people. I do all the talking, get all the money. I don't even have to break. I let everybody else break and I just talk. So thank God I still have that, because that's another love I have, you know, is street performing, going out, gathering people, bringing everybody together, you know, making them laugh. All races, all creeds of all walks of life, you know, we bring them together to sit down and enjoy breaking and fucking enjoy hip hop music and bring them all together. At the end, they love it, you know.
Could you keep breaking and keep enjoying it that much without the street shows and without the street? Or are you deeply passionate and in love with this vibe?
Yeah, man, street performing is pretty addicting, I must say, because it's good money. I get it right after. The government doesn't touch it unless I want them to, unless I want to report it. But you know, it's nice. It's nice to have that, you know, especially in Venice Beach and like Santa Monica. It's nice to know that I can go and make money like this, you know, and it's good money for me because I've been doing it so long, you know, so we make good money.
And so now you bring your kids to do street shows with you. Do you feel that the way they approach breaking is the same way that you approached it when you were a kid, or do you feel that
No,
the realities are so different that is gonna be different anyway?
you know, being a father is a challenge, and you always question yourself: are you doing things right? Are you doing things wrong? And you wish really that you do it right. That's your intention, right? Is to do everything correctly and hope for the, you know, that your kids listen. You know, and
Cross the fingers.
for me, it's like I found breaking by myself. My dad didn't show me it, you know? And I think because I found it on my own, it was very special to me as well, right?
Yeah.
For them, they were born into it. Like my first son, Bomani, he was literally doing footwork before he can walk. I'll say that again. Before he stood up and walked, he was doing footwork.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And his first word was B-boy.
Oof.
And I have it on. I have all this on footage.
Wow.
Yeah.
History.
Yeah. So he was born into it. He used to sit there and watch me and Skill Methods break in all the time at sessions. He would be in the little chair just watching us, you know. And my second son came. He was in it. They come do street shows with us since they were 2 years old, 1 year old, in the streets with us. Yeah, bro. So, but you know, now I think because I'm pushing them now harder to do it, they don't want to do it. Because like I'm pushing them,
Yeah.
you know. But if they see it and their friend tell them to do it, it's like, oh yeah, they want to do it.
Yeah.
Because they're in a weird stage now, where it's like, whatever your dad says, don't listen.
Yeah.
You know. I think because I'm always disciplining them, you know, and they have to do their homework, they have to do their chores, clean the room, and you know. So when I tell them to break, it's in their ear. It sounds like a chore. You know, it sounds like a responsibility now. So it's not fun for them. You know, they just want to play video games and play football. So, but now I know it's a process with them. For me, I think I learned at a slow pace for a good reason, you know? A lot of kids that learn fast, they end up getting bored with it.
Yeah.
Right? When they get every move so fast.
Yeah.
It's
So,
like,
okay, I
I'm
did
on to the
everything,
next
so what's
challenge. For me, I had to learn. It's very slow for me, man. You know, like everything came very slow. It was like fine wine, you know? Like aging. But I knew this in my head. I wasn't in a rush. I knew like I had time.
Yes.
You know, I've never been to the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah?
It's my first time.
Wow, what an honor.
My first time in the Eiffel Tower. Then I came
Eiffel
up.
Tower.
Yes, the reason I came up with Flea.
No accident.
The reason I came up with Flea was I was a little kid and I was like the little one of the
Jumping
group.
around.
Jumping around, everybody. You know what I mean? Like so. I honestly wish I would have had a better name.
And do you like more?
I should have came out with a more, you know, powerful
Yeah.
name, but